Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. How are you? Good morning,
Good.
bud.
How are you? Good morning.
I'm good. Top of the morning to you.
Top of the
Coming to
morning.
you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Thank you.
This is Mind Your Puckin' Business, of course, brought to you. We thank Sonnet Financial Technologies, who will be with us in a moment. This is episode number 48 on the Spanish dial, 48.
Whoa,
it
you
was
broke
gonna
the
happen.
streak. You broke
Yes.
the streak.
48.
See.
I'm going to say it again. 48.
See.
Screwed it up today. It was a matter of time. I made it to 48. That's
Yeah,
way better than I ever
that was
thought
really
I'd
good.
So you can send your questions at any time, and we are going to be chock full of viewer questions today, actually. And you can send them to mypbshow@gmail.com. That is mypbshow@gmail.com. And when I say that we're going to get to questions today, I have a bunch of them. Today we are doing the Ranger preview show.
Wow.
Or more NHL preview show. We're going to do some NHL stuff, not just the Rangers. But I do have some questions I promised I would get answered that were sent in. So we're going to get to them in a couple of minutes before we do football. And you can find us in a bunch of different ways, as always, on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And Dougie and I actually looked at the stats, which we don't normally do. Maybe we do it every couple of months. And very impressive. I'd like to see that people are downloading us on the iTunes and Spotify
Absolutely.
platform as much as they are. So we are grateful for your listenership. We appreciate you. You guys are the reason that keeps us going and keeps Dougie Sticks and I happy here. So we appreciate that. And there we go. Everything good in your world
Great.
as we approach wedding day?
Yes. Very. What, 2.5 weeks now? Yeah.
We are
Coming super fast.
We are getting close. Yeah.
Yes.
You got at this point. It's like you got to make sure the tuxedo or the suit is pressed.
Oh yeah, I got to get shoes. Thanks for reminding me. We were
There you
going to
go.
rent shoes, but we didn't like
Shoes?
those shoes. We didn't like the shoes that they had at the shoe place. So we're going to buy shoes, but we got to buy them.
Okay.
So
And so you're going to wear patent leather shoes more than once?
tan
Tan.
brown shoes to go with my blue
He,
suit.
he will look spiffy. That we do know. He
Yes,
will look.
yes.
He will look spiffy.
I got to get a tie too because Adrian didn't like the gold tie option.
Although if you're following us on camera today, I do like the pink tropical shirt.
Thank you.
It's an interesting.
I only have a few more days to wear it. 'Cause,
Yes,
like
that's true.
this is like a summery shirt, and that's time is.
Well, they
dwindling.
say there's a rule, right? I'm the most non-fashion person that there is, but they say there's a rule like no white after Labor Day. Pink is okay, right?
Pink is okay.
Pink is cool.
This is the new color. This is the color of the season.
Salmon.
Yes, salmon,
yes,
dusty rustic rose.
Not pink. It's salmon. folks.
Dusty rustic rose.
So before we get to all the NHL stuff, and there, it's weird because we complained for a while that there was not a lot of Ranger stuff going on. There is so much stuff going on in the last week that it's like overload here. We were going to get to, and then we're going to get to the NFL. We went into week 5 this past week with a 3-1 record. And we will see if we went 4-1 or 3-2. But based on the smiles on our face, I think that gives away the answer. We had a killer week, by the way.
Yes.
But we made people a lot of money.
Nice.
But we'll get to that in a little bit. So we're going to start. We're going to do things a little opposite as last week here. And we're going to welcome to the show, although you can see him if you're following on camera, Tom Rahelski of Sonnet Financial Technologies. How are you, Tom?
Hello, Jeff. Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you? So why don't you give us kind of your little financial insight tip of the week?
Yeah, so last week we talked about emergency savings. And, I know times are tough and it's hard to save. And we talked about last week, not enough Americans are saving. So, a lot of comments I get is, well, Tom, what should I do? If my bills are tight, how am I supposed to save? Well, why don't you start a side hustle? Right? So we're going to talk a little about entrepreneurism today.
Nice.
Yeah. So, there's really nothing stopping any American, able-bodied American with a car to maybe do some Uber on the weekends, save a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Right. And I have some actually fun facts about small businesses in the United States. And do you know, Doug, how many small businesses are in the United States?
How many small
Yeah.
businesses? 500,000.
500,000.
No,
What do you
I
think?
was going to
Doug?
say more than that. 2 million.
2 million. I was shocked when I saw this number. 30 million small businesses in the United States.
What?
So we were not. So I win.
Even close.
You win. Price is right.
Price is
rules.
Right rules.
Price is Right rules. Yeah, exactly.
It's like betting $1, really.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
we were.
That's crazy.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. So it's 1,100 small businesses for every one like mega corporation. So there's a huge drastic difference between how many small businesses
Well,
are
yeah,
in
you
10 cents
got-
and
You got
large
like,
business.
you know, the aunt that has like 5 small businesses, an earring shop, a dog walking business.
Yeah,
So what is
absolutely,
the, I wonder what the average number of small businesses per business owner is.
So I like this topic because I'm an entrepreneur by nature. This is only, you know, my Dougie Tuesday morning hangouts. When I'm not here with him, I'm an entrepreneur. So let me ask you this, because I you know, we don't rehearse. I don't know what you're going to say ahead of time when I can throw it to you. So people out there, it's not like this is rehearsed. What would be the best entrepreneurship advice you could give? Because I get asked that a lot, and I have always struggled with the answer because there's a lot I could say. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me answer Dougie's question first. So to answer your question, 70% of small businesses are sole proprietors. 70%. So you're right. Most of them are like, selling, hustling rings on the weekends or whatever, or whatnot. But to answer your question, the number one thing you need to do, actually two things you have to do before you start a business is first conduct market research. Okay. So you might have a cool idea, even if it's something simple as a sandwich shop, right? You have to conduct market research. In fact, when you go to the SBA website, the first thing they say they have like a top 10 list of tips to set up a business. That naming your business is actually number 8 on the list. They don't even care don't worry about the name of it. First, conduct your market research and see who the competition is, right? Find out what the interest in your business is, right? Find out what are some what they call moats. The old castles, and you have the
the alligators,
the alligators.
Yeah.
So that's Druckener, famous business guy. He called it the moats, right? What kind of how is your business protected against competition, and what differentiates yourself against other businesses, and what's the opportunity for growth within your particular sector. So as you guys know, I have a brewery. And so when I first decided to open up a brewery, I conducted a lot of, let's call it field research, right? So I started going to all the local breweries in North Jersey, and actually even most central New Jersey. And I would check in, hey, drinking local craft beer at, Brick City, drinking at Jersey Go. And after like 2 weeks, I went to a lot of breweries. And one of my friends says, Tom, what's wrong with you, dude? What's going on with you and your family? You're like at a brewery every day. What's going on with you and your wife? I didn't want to say I'm researching for breweries, but I was like, oh, no, it's just having fun. But market research, right? And that's actually where I found out that there are no breweries in Passaic County. I actually wanted to open up a brewery in New York because New York liquor laws are much easier. But, I saw there's no brewery in Passaic County. So that'd be a cool way. It would be a cool moat, right? No matter what, even if I close after one year, I still have that thing out, feather my cap in the first brewery in Passaic County. Second thing that you need to do if you're going to open up a business, set up a business plan. Very important. That's number 2 on the SBA list. Set up a business plan, and this is essentially your road book. Your map of what's your goal. And I forgot which business person said, but you have to start with why, right? Why do you want to do this business? Why do you differentiate yourself? What is the future for the plan? What's your break even? So when you actually open up, how many sales you need to make in order to survive the 1 month. What kind of savings you have to survive in case you have 0 sales. And most importantly, that's how you're going to get funding. That leads into number 3, how are you going to get money for your business, right? So luckily in today's times, we have a lot more options as far as banking, loans. There are a lot of great grants out there. So if you are a woman, there are a lot of great grants. A grant is free money, Doug. You don't have to repay a grant. If you're a minority, there's a lot of minority grants, veterans, there are all these great grants out there for small business startups.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And I always love talking about entrepreneurship. So that's my bread and butter other than hockey, right?
Yes. That is the business part of the mind your pucking business.
Yeah.
So when we met in August of 2020 and we started this venture, that was part of the thought in the name was that we were going to do some small business stuff and entrepreneurship. Yeah. So
we started in August 2020.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Last week
wasn't that mid-COVID?
It was.
We didn't start mid-COVID.
We absolutely did. Your first episode was when the NHL was in the bubble up in Toronto. It absolutely was.
Interesting.
We started.
I have to check this. It's
right.
Just go back 48.
Yeah, 48 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, we take a couple
No,
off
we
here.
take
But
a.
still about
Yeah,
a year.
Yeah,
About a year.
Interesting.
it is. It's very true.
No, because I could have
You
sworn.
know what,
It's
Tom?
October.
Tom, he has so much fun here that on Tuesdays.
Time flies.
Time
he
flies.
just- well, we thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
As always, come back and see us again. You know where to find us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sonnet
Sonnet Financial.
Sign
FinTech.
Up Financial Tech.
That's Sign
We,
Up
we
FinTech.
appreciate them. By the way, I was on your website was it over the weekend or the end of last week? Really good website, I have to say.
Okay, yeah.
I will admit that I had not been to the website, and I was on there today. It was very good.
Yeah,
Very
we're
clear
trying
and
to make
concise.
clear, and we actually I do a lot of great content on my Instagram
Yeah.
page. So if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see like funny memes. But actually, if you click the captions of the memes, they're actually well-researched articles about various financial topics that sometimes I'll borrow for these episodes.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, that is
Yeah.
Tom Rahelski of Sonnet Financial Technologies. Thank you for coming in as always.
Yeah, great.
And if you want to make your
And I'll make
on-camera exit, his little
at my
crawl
graceful
through-
exit again. Yeah, thank you guys. I'll see you next week.
We will see you. Well, we thank him for coming in, and now we're going to turn to Dougie's favorite portion of the show,
Oh, yeah?
which is the NHL and Ranger preview.
Absolutely.
You ready?
100%.
So the Rangers open tomorrow night in Washington, D.C. against the Capitals. The NHL season itself will start tonight. They've got 2 games on the docket, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning, the defending champion, will open at home tonight against Pittsburgh. And then the Seattle Kraken will have their first ever game, and that will be tonight, the second game out in Vegas as they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. So as we get the NHL started, let's talk. As I mentioned a minute ago, there's been so much in the last week with the Rangers. It's like overload. We went from not a lot of content, not a lot of stuff to talk about, to all of a sudden there's now so much going on. So let's start kind of in chronological order here. Over the weekend, Mika Zibanejad signed an extension deal. We've been talking for a while here on the show, and really any Ranger fan was aware that Mika Zibanejad was was going to expire at the end of this year. So there was a lot of talk, Dougie Sticks. What are the Rangers going to do? Are they going to re-sign him to be your number one center, or are you going to look elsewhere? B-Rock, our producer here in the studio, and I were talking before the show that number one centers are not easy to get. It's not like they just come on the free agent market every year. So the Rangers decided to re-sign Mika to an 8-year contract, which I thought was fair at about $8.5 million per year. So about your salary, Doug Sticks, what Undefeated Media pays you here. So I was fine with this contract. I know there's some people that were a little leery of the length of the term being 8 years, but you have to understand something. This is what contracts are these days in the NHL. And if the Rangers were not going to give Mika Zibanejad this contract, guess what? Someone else was going to do that instead at the end of this year, and the Rangers would not have a number one center. So I don't have a problem with the contract. I don't have a problem with the term either. The question really is Mika Zibanejad going to be good for the length of the contract, which I think we talked about in studio here briefly before. And maybe year 6 or 7, they're not. I'm not sure why you're laughing.
Because we also have to ask ourselves, is he going to work well with Eichel?
No. Okay. So here's the other thing. You're going to like this aspect.
Yes.
By the Rangers re-signing Mika Zibanejad, the odds of Jack Eichel coming to the Rangers has gone down dramatically, because now you have your number one center in Mika Zibanejad. The only way really that I think it could still happen, and it's unlikely, is that Buffalo would have to eat portion of Eichel's contract, because the Rangers would now have trouble getting it into the salary cap. So if 2 months down the road, Jack Eichel's people in Buffalo call and they say, look, we're willing to offer him to you and we'll eat some of the contract, that would be a better deal than what we would have gotten for in the last couple of months. But it's unlikely now.
Would that be a bomb squad, like 1 and 2? You have 2.
It would be. I'm not sure. Actually, in that scenario, Mika Zibanejad would probably be the 2 if Eichel is healthy. Jack Eichel healthy is a bona fide number one center. Mika Zibanejad would go to number 2. But look, that would be a wonderful problem for the Rangers to have, and a wonderful thing for them to have to address.
Would they ever play on the same line?
No, they're both centers. Absolutely
So
not.
then none of them,
No.
neither one would like what's his name? Damn it. Shoot. With the Derek Jeter and what's his name? A-Rod moved to third base. They wouldn't do that?
No, they would. Well, they would each be centers on different lines. So we congratulate Mika Zibanejad on an 8-year deal. We hope that now that he's going to be here for the next 8 years, somewhere in those 8 years, there's a Stanley Cup that follows.
Nice.
That would be nice. But I was fine with the contract. I know most Ranger fans, I put a poll up on our Instagram page actually the other day about this, and it was, are you happy with the deal? And 90% the people were happy with it, which I think is the overall thing. I'm not hearing a lot of drama with it or complaints.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
So, like, we're married to him as our first line center. Is there anyone out there you rather have? Like, is he like the Michael Jordan right now of hockey?
No, he's not the Michael Jordan, but the Michael Jordan of hockey who would maybe be Connor McDavid or someone like that is not available. Okay. So I don't have a chance to get him. Okay. So out of the options of who I could realistically have as my number one center, he's okay.
Can you compare him to a quarterback in the NFL?
Good question. If I had to compare Mika Zibanejad to a quarterback,
like, is he an Aaron Rodgers? Is he a let's see here.
This is a bad comparison because it's going to make him sound worse than he is.
Eli Manning?
No.
I mean, Danny Jones?
No. And I see B-Rock looking at me because he wants to know the answer here. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. In the fact that he can be good, he's streaky, he can disappear for a little bit. There could be some games he's non-existent, but there are games where he's really good. Like he had right before the coronavirus shut the league down. He had the infamous 5-goal game versus the Capitals and was red hot.
So what about Justin Herbert?
No, Justin Herbert, he's not at that level. Justin Herbert is crushing it in fantasy right now. No, he's not there. So I would say Baker Mayfield. That is a very interesting question to compare.
I can compare.
B-Rock, you okay with that answer? He's okay with it. All right, yeah, that's okay. So that happened over the weekend. Then yesterday, the Rangers have been doing this thing for the last year or two where they don't have a captain. They just basically designate 5 or 6 guys. They all wear the A for assistant captains, and nobody wears the C.
This is the same guys every time?
Pretty much. It's been a kind of the same people. So the new coach of the Rangers, Gerard Gallant, came out and said, hey, we're going to name a captain. If I was his quote was something along the lines of, if I was a betting man, we will have a captain named by the first game in Washington. Dan Rosen, who was with us last week, said that he had 4 different stories written, with each story being someone who was going to be captain, not knowing who was going to be, because the Rangers were going to name a captain. Yesterday, it comes out that the Rangers have have elected to not name a captain and stick with the 6 alternates, which I don't understand. But I will say, similar to the Mika Zibanejad thing, people are getting way too upset about this. It's not that important. And remember, just because the Rangers are starting the season without a true captain doesn't mean you can't turn around in a week, a month, or 6 months, or whatever, and say, you know what, we're going to give the C to Mika Zibanejad or Jacob Trouba or whoever it's going to be.
I agree with you, but at the same time, the people want to know that their team is being led by someone.
Okay. So to me,
leadership's important in the locker room.
It is. Well, Marc Messier is the consummate leader and the greatest leader in all of sports in my eyes, although that may be a biased look because he won the Stanley Cup with the Rangers. But I would agree, but this may there's got to be a reason that they're doing it. And
you don't need to rush it, but we're getting close.
Well, you're clearly not going to have a captain by tomorrow. So the Rangers will enter the 2021-2022 season without a captain. That is for sure. So
you're okay with that?
I'm okay. Again, is it what I would do? No. Do I think it's like the most important thing as we go into a Ranger preview now that the Rangers are doomed because they don't have an actual captain? No, I mean,
but someone should be already stepping up and acting as like in practice. There's always those guys who lead.
So maybe here's the thing.
There's too many leaders.
No,
and he doesn't want to shoot them down.
Maybe nobody has done it to the extent that Gerard Gallant wants to see his captain be. Okay. And someone's got to earn it, which is why, look, just because they're starting the season without a captain does not guarantee that the season will end without a captain.
True.
It could.
True.
But it's not. If it was something that the Rangers deemed a hindrance, guess what they would do? They would name a captain. It's not that big of a deal. I don't like it, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So that happened. Then yesterday, the Rangers submitted, as every NHL team had due at 5 o'clock last night, submitted to the league their final roster. So you had to decide and give to the league what your final roster was going to be of training camp, which then in turn really becomes your roster that you start the season with tomorrow night in Washington. And there wasn't really a ton of surprises. As Dan Rosen and I predicted last week, we thought Niels Lundqvist would beat out Zach Jones for the last spot, and he did. But the surprise that did come yesterday was Vitaly Kravtsov not making the team and starting the season in Hartford. Again, not to sit here and say a similar theme, Okay. But people are going a little bit overboard with this. Vitaly Kravtsov, if he made the roster, which I thought he would, we all kind of thought he would, if he made the roster, was probably going to be on the third line. He certainly would not have been on the first line. And I don't think he would have been on the second line because the second line seems pretty set to be Strome, Panarin, and Kakko. So Vitaly Kravtsov was probably playing on the third line. If he was playing on the third line, would I rather him play third line minutes here or continue to develop on what presumably will be top line status down in Hartford and the Rangers minor league affiliate in the AHL? I'm fine with it. Vitaly Kravtsov was not going to be the difference, I would think, as to how far the Rangers were going to go. If he's doing that well, and if he's worthy of that status, he will produce in Hartford those stats, right? Because you're playing against lesser competition, and therefore will be back here. So similar to the captain situation, everything here is a work in progress. Things can change.
Yeah.
Vitaly Kravtsov can come back, and chances are over the 82 games that await the Rangers starting tomorrow night in Washington, at some point in those 82 games, Vitaly Kravtsov is going to dress with the New York Rangers. Just because he's not starting there is not a warning sign that the 9th overall pick for the Rangers, which is what he was back in the first round when he was drafted, is a bust.
Well, now he's getting ice time rather than just sitting around doing nothing.
Correct. I'm fine with it. I was surprised by it, but it doesn't bother me in the least. Because the Rangers, if you look at the preview stuff that we're about to run through, or anyone for that matter, no one is sitting here saying the Rangers are going to go as far as Vitaly Kravtsov is going to take them. Right?
Sure.
It's just not.
Yeah.
So the Rangers, we have their roster set. It should be an interesting thing to see. Now, a little terrifying thing last week. I don't know if you saw. In the Rangers had their second preseason matchup with the Devils at the Garden, and Ryan Reeves, who the Rangers traded for, which really was brought in to just bring toughness. This guy is not someone who's going to score. He'll get you maybe a couple goals here and there through the year. Had got injured in kind of a freak play with PK Subban of the Devils, and everyone was going crazy that PK Subban was a dirty player, but it wasn't a dirty play. It was kind of coincidental. If you saw this injury, they didn't show you on the broadcast. They said they were not showing you the replay because that's how bad it looked. It was like one of those gruesome things, right?
Like his knee went the opposite direction?
It was bad. I don't even want to think about it. I saw it quickly, and I won't even go back and look online at it. So you assume that he's going to be out for like 9 months to a year, torn ACL.
Yeah.
The dude was skating at practice the next day and is in the lineup tomorrow night, it looks like. I have no idea. I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV or on a podcast or anything.
Yeah.
But how Ryan Reeves is in the lineup with the way he is.
Was it completely the opposite direction? Was it
disgusting.
dislocated?
It was disgusting. He couldn't put weight on his leg skating off the ice. This was Wednesday night at about 7:30 because it was in the first period. So I was then, Googling throughout the night trying to get an update, and they said, he's not going to return to the game, which clearly, obviously. And then Gerard Gallant had said after the game in the post-game press conference that he was day-to-day, which I was like, that cannot be right. And then they said he was going to go for more tests tomorrow. So I'm like, all right. When he goes and he gets the MRI or whatever, something's going to come up, like his leg is basically falling off.
And there's nothing.
And somehow, I have no idea.
It's flexible, man.
So Ranger fans are excited tomorrow for him to be in the lineup because they want him to go after Tom Wilson for payback on what happened with Panarin. But it definitely looks like he'll be in the lineup. But if you asked me a week ago after that Devil game, I thought we weren't even seeing him for the rest of the year. But amazingly, he will be okay. All right, so let's do some Ranger stuff. I said I would take some questions. We've had some people submit them, so I'm going to run through them.
So wait, this is Ranger only stuff.
This is Ranger only stuff to start, and then I'm going to make my prediction. Who's going to win the Eastern Conference? Thank you. Very good, Dougie Sticks. The production.
Thank you.
The production team here at Undefeated Media. Let me tell you, they are second to none. So we're going to start. We'll take some Ranger questions, and then I will give you my prediction for Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and Stanley Cup champions. So let's start with the Ranger questions. Who will be, and I'm going to start with the hardest one first. Who will be the Rangers MVP at the end of the season? You want to take a guess before I give you my answer?
Their goalie,
Igor Shesterkin.
Yes,
it's a good guess. It's not what I would. It's not going to be my answer, but I think it's a good guess. I am actually going to surprise people. And it's actually, I'm going to loop this question with the Rangers MVP into another question was, who's going to surprise Ranger fans the most? And that is Kaapo Kakko. Kaapo Kakko has looked outstanding in preseason. It's been clearly noted. Dan and I talked about it last week on the show that he did not really like to play for David Quinn. He seems a lot freer. He seems like he's going to live up to some of the potential. If he lived up to some of the potential that he had coming in as the draft, that would be good because his potential wasn't through the roof. So I'm going to go with Capo Caco.
Nice.
I'm going to surprise people. And because he's playing on a line or slated to play on a line with Artemi Panarin and Ryan Strome, he's going to have opportunities here to score and get points. So Panarin is a finisher that is, can finish as good as anybody. So he's going to have his chance. Capo Caco to me is your surprise Ranger for the year, as well as your Ranger MVP. And remember, he is in a contract year. What happens with athletes in a contract year?
They do good.
They do well. They're playing for money. They need it. So the next question was, what is the realistic expectation for Alexis Lafreniere? I am going to also go on a positive tone, like I did with Capo Caco, and say that since it's looking like he's playing on the top line with Mika Zibanejad, he is going to have a good year.
So he's going to be in the first line?
He's going to be in the first line.
Wow, I got to get my jersey.
He's actually a good jersey to get. Alexis Lafreniere, his birthday was yesterday. Guess how old he was?
21.
Close, 20.
Wow.
This kid, I mean, you think
Sky's
about
the
it,
limit.
Sky's the limit. So, and I thought to myself that since my daughter is 10, he's only really 9 years older than my daughter, and this dude is good.
You're cheering on this dude on the ice,
and I'm right. I mean, he is really the Rangers' long-term hope. So I do think Alexis Lafreniere will have a good year.
We're at that age now. So, like, when we used to watch athletes, it'd be like, oh, wow, like, you look up to them. Now they're like 18 years old, and you're like, shit.
Yeah. Well, we'll use the censor button on that one. But yes, absolutely. But, the worst is now, like, when you go, I'll go occasionally, and I haven't gone in a couple of years because of COVID. I'll go back to Boston University where I went, and I'll do some stuff for the school that I graduated from there. And when you walk up and down Comm Ave in Boston and you look at these people, these kids look like they're 2 years old.
Yeah, the college and high school kids look younger than I feel like that we look like.
But that's
maybe that's evolution.
That you're getting old.
I used to be super pissed. Sorry, there's another one. I used to be super, LeBron James used to aggravate me because I loved basketball and I would like to be, I would want to play in the NBA. And this guy's like a month older than me and he's the best basketball player in the world.
And
I hated him for it.
You're good at what you do. Hey, everybody has their own traits. So another question was, what is the impact Gerard Gallant will have on the team? First year new coach.
Well, we've seen on his other teams, his first year is a nice bump because
look at this guy.
Am I right? Am I right?
Look, I've taught you something. I really have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Gerard Gallant really has had a really impressive coaching career where he has been. And if you do look, the trend has been, as Dougie Stick said, although he may have stole it from Dan Rosen last week, to quote him, is that there has been a kind of Gerard Gallant bump in the first year. It seems a little bit different, and I don't want to look into it that much because it is reading too much into it, but I can mention it, is that it does look like the Rangers are playing a lot looser in the preseason than they were under David Quinn. You can expect some of these guys, these younger players, Capo Caco going up to the second line, as I said, to be getting a lot more ice time. Alexis Lafreniere going up to the first line. Remember, last year, Lafreniere started the season on the third line. So you're going to get a lot looser. They're going to play a really fun brand of hockey where I think you're going to see them forecheck teams, pressure teams, force them out of their zone. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see his impact. I do expect him to have a very successful first year from a coaching standpoint. Do I think he will be mentioned as a Jack Adams Award nominee, which is the award they give out in the NHL, to the Coach of the Year? No, I do not. But I do think he is the right fit for this team. If you remember, I called for the Rangers to call him back in March and find out if he would come here. So I do think Gerard Gallant will have a good first year here. I certainly do.
So based on last year, before him, based on where the Rangers were and where we expect them to be and the bump and his coaching style, you don't think he'll win any Coach of the Year award?
I don't think he'll win Coach of the Year because I don't think the Rangers are going to be as good as a team needs to be to win a Coach of the Year. But I think he's going to do a good job. I do think he is going to get the most out of this team.
Have we seen anything special so far in the preseason that we're excited about from him? Or is there not much to see in a preseason?
I don't want to look a lot into the preseason, but I would say that they do for sure look a little bit looser. They look like they're playing a more fun brand of hockey to watch, which if you're a player, you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? you're Panarin. You don't really want to be restricted. You want to be able to do what you want to do with the puck, and I do think we're going to see that.
Nice.
So, last question before we get into the actual NHL predictions. Igor Shesterkin. This is a $1 million question that is not getting talked out a lot about, but you actually hit on it before when I asked you who do you think the Ranger MVP will be, and you said Igor Shesterkin. I do not think he will be the Ranger MVP, but I do think he is super important because he's your goalie, right? And here's the thing that you have to remember with Igor Shesterkin. He has not gotten into an NHL season, and last season doesn't count because it was the Corona season with 56 games, as the bona fide number one starter. So now he's going to have a heavy workload that he has never had before. However, he does have a really good safety net behind him in Georgiev as a backup, because Georgiev is one of the better backups in the league. So I would expect Igor Shesterkin to play 60 to 65 of the games, provided he doesn't get hurt. You would have Georgiev play the other 20. So he's not going to be like Martin Brodeur numbers back in the 90s or early 2000s when he was playing 70 or 75 games a year. But it will be interesting. It is a wild card here, Igor Shesterkin, because you have to remember he's never played this amount of games in the NHL. So it's going to be something to watch. I do expect him to have a good year. Do I expect him to be Henrik Lundqvist of old right away? Absolutely not. I don't think that's fair to him to expect that. But I do think he will have a good first year.
Do we have healthy competition with the backup? Like, is it going to be like, he's looking over his shoulder, I better play good. I got this guy who's almost as good as me.
Georgiev is known to be a good backup. He can fill in any game, really. I mean, look, Igor Shesterkin, the contract he signed, he's the number one guy, and Georgiev is on a 2-year deal. So no, it's not really, he's going to take my job long term. He's not. But I think it is a good safety net for Shesterkin to have Georgiev there, because he can step in and really play against anybody. I mean, Georgiev is a really good backup.
Nice.
So that concludes the Ranger section. So let's do NHL predictions now. I'm going to be fair. What I don't want to do ever, and I try to not be this person, is I don't want to be like, oh, my Stanley Cup pick, the New York Rangers, right? It's like, so I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be unbiased with this stuff. I will say this. With any sport, I don't know if you do this, but when a season starts, I always will look at like experts' predictions. Even I do this with football and basketball, and I always hope there's some idiot that picks the Knicks to go far, and there isn't, or baseball as well, where I always want to see what the experts are picking. So as I've looked in the last couple of weeks as to see what NHL experts are picking, one thing really stands out. There's no universal answer here. There's no clear-cut favorite. The parity in the league is great. Really, there's a lot of teams that could win the Stanley Cup this year. And there's a lot of teams that can make runs. And as we've seen in the playoffs before, like I'll even just think of the first example that just came to my mind, 2006, when the lowest seed in the playoffs, Edmonton Oilers, got hot and went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Anything can happen. So predicting a Stanley Cup winner is brutally hard, but we're going to try and do it. So let's start with the Eastern Conference. The best team to me in the Eastern Conference is either the New York Islanders, which again, that shows you I'm not being biased if I'm saying that, or the Boston Bruins. I'm going to go with the Boston Bruins, and here's why. This is really, you got to think if you're the Bruins, it's not a last chance at this core group, but Bergeron is getting old. Some of these guys, the Boston Bruins have been around now for a while. If you're going to take the next step every year that goes on, it's harder to do it. So I'm going to say that the Bruins come out of the Eastern Conference, but the other team that really can make a run is certainly the New York Islanders. As Dan Rosen said last week, the Islanders are loaded. I mean, they are a great team, and they are. So I'm going to go in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Bruins. The Western Conference, I'm going to go with a team that reminds me a little bit of the Rangers right now, that I think are a couple years ahead of the Rangers. They were young for a couple years. They were good. They were having good regular seasons. They'd get in the playoffs, but they couldn't go deep. They would win around here and there, and that is the Colorado Avalanche. Now, maybe they finally take that step with Nathan McKinnon, who is one of the best. When we talked before about great centers who I would love to have on my team, that would be the one, but he's not coming here. So I'm going to go with a Stanley Cup final of the Boston Bruins and Colorado Avalanche, and I'm going to go with the champion being the Colorado Avalanche.
Wow.
So Colorado Avalanche over the Boston Bruins.
So you don't think there's going to be a three-peat?
No, Tampa's not going to three-peat. Remember, Tampa had to make a lot of moves. One of their good guys is now in the Rangers, Barclay Goodrow, because of the salary cap. So they're going to look a lot different. They'll still be good, right? They still got Kucherov.
So no one wanted to take the hit to keep the team together, like Tom Brady kind of?
No, it was they were way over the salary cap. It wasn't even. And Yanni Gourde, who was a good player, Dan Rosen talked about him last week, is now in Seattle with the Kraken. So no, he is definitely not. And I think the expectation for the Rangers, let me wrap it up, the NHL segment with this. I think what we said last week is accurate. The Rangers should make the playoffs. Their division is not that good. You have the Islanders, are going to make the playoffs, and probably Carolina, but everyone else I can find an argument to make to say that this team will not make the playoffs. The Rangers need to make the playoffs as well. That to me would be a step in the right direction for the long-term growth of this team, where we talk about the term we use on the show a lot, window of opportunity.
Mhm.
The window's going to keep opening every year. That would be a progression towards opening the window some more.
I like it.
So I think the Rangers make the playoffs, and then we'll see. Maybe they can win a round or two, get hot at the right time. But it will be exciting to watch because they do have a lot of young talent, and they also have guys like Zibanejad and Kreider and Panarin that are exciting to watch also. So
How much do you think I'd win if I put Devils to win the Stanley Cup?
the Devils,
Like $5 to win the Stanley Cup. How much do you think that would pay out?
Probably about 500. Devils are not winning this.
What about Rangers? How much do you think?
The Rangers have better odds. Probably. I think the Rangers were plus.
If I put 5 on each, how much do you think my payout is if one of them hits?
Well, your better payout would be on the Devils. 5 for the Devils would probably be $250, 300. Probably the
That's
Rangers
it.
150. Well, you're only betting $5.
Yeah, but it's like,
It's not like
impossible.
it's not like you're betting on a Pee Wee hockey team. Remember, there's only 32 teams, and the parity in the NHL, Vegas knows this. The people that do the odds, the parity in the NHL is great. So
All right.
we'll see.
All
So
right,
stay
all right.
tuned.
Nice, nice.
Every week we'll be talking hockey now, which is kind of exciting for me. I'm not sure for Dougie Sticks, but he's learning.
Absolutely. Come
He's
on.
learning. All right,
We're
shifting.
getting the Gerard bump this year, bro.
The Gerard bump. You got it. I'm gonna get you a shirt. Gerard bump, bro.
Gerard bumps.
Bump, yo. So, all right. So moving to the NFL, we entered last week, going into week 5. We had 3 winning weeks and 1 losing week. And we had a really, really good week last week. We got 4 or 5 right. The one we had wrong, we'll start there. We had Washington getting 2 at home to New Orleans. That did not cover. But the other 4 we had right. We had Buffalo getting 2.5 in Kansas City. They won that game outright by a mile. And by the way, Buffalo is clearly right now the class of the AFC.
Yeah.
Although maybe I could argue the Chargers up there, but Buffalo right now has got to be the favorite in the AFC.
Mhm.
We also had Detroit getting 7.5 in Minnesota. They lost on a last-second field goal, so they covered. We had the Chargers. You and I talked about that. We thought something was wrong with the spread, and we won it, but it wasn't as
Mhm.
one-sided as you would think.
Yeah.
But the Chargers did win. They were giving 1.5 to Cleveland. They won by 5 at home. And the other one I thought was a gimme, was the Steelers -1 at home with Denver, which I said, look, the Steelers need to win this game
Yeah.
or their season's over, and they're at home, and they did. Now, Denver came back and made it close until an interception late in the 4th quarter in the end zone. But the Steelers were really in control that whole game and won that. So we had a very
Nice.
good week. We thank
Good
you
job,
for your
good
support.
job.
We hope you listen
Free
to
money.
us. Free money, we give it away. And we're also going to give away free Gerard bump shirts.
Get the bump.
Get the bump. Get the Gerard bump. So, all right. So here we go. These are your week 5 picks. Here we go. And we are 4-1 on the season with 4 winning weeks, 1 losing week. So let's try to continue it. The
Yeah,
Jaguars +3 against the Dolphins. This game is in London, so it's neutral site. The Dolphins, I've just concluded, are not good. They're
Mhm.
taking a step back this year. They have not been consistent at all. The Jaguars have been terrible. Their coach is now embroiled in the stupid controversy with him out at a bar. But if the Jaguars are ever going to win, right,
Mhm.
this is the game it would be. And they're getting points versus a team that's not very good.
Mhm.
Give me the Jaguars +3 against the Dolphins. The last one hit for me last week, and I like it a lot. The Lions are 0-5, but they could easily have won a couple games. They've had heartbreaking losses after heartbreaking losses here. They are +3.5 at home for Cincinnati, who is good, but the Lions will show up. Their coaches was I don't know if you saw Dan Campbell in the postgame hysterically crying the other day. You feel bad. They're going to show up. The Lions, now I'm also getting a field goal +0.5 point. Give me the Lions +3.5 at home against Cincinnati.
Who'd the Bengals play last
Green
week?
Bay in a very good game.
Yeah, I mean,
That was a good game.
Detroit's no Green Bay though.
No, they're not. So the Chargers, it worked last week. Now they go across the country +3.5. I'm getting them in Baltimore. Now, Baltimore last night looked atrocious for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden woke up like all of a sudden the Gatorade kicked in or
Yes.
something. But I like the Chargers here. They are, as I mentioned a minute ago, up there in the discussion of the class of the AFC with the Buffalo Bills. So give me the Chargers +3.5 at the Ravens. That offense with Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert is the real deal.
Yes.
And Mike Williams. I mean, if they could ever get their defense straight, that's a Super Bowl team right there.
Yeah.
So give me the Chargers. And that game, I don't know what the over-under opened up in that game, but it's got to be enormously high, and it probably will even hit. So give me the Chargers +3.5. The next one, Houston plus 10 at Indy. Houston played New England tough this weekend. Obviously, they almost knocked out my entire Survivor pool. I mean, because a lot of people had New England, but New England came back and won. Indy is just not that good. Look at last night, right? Like, you have a lead like that in the fourth quarter. You just can't do that. So 10 is also a lot of points. And I think Indy may just be like shot from last night and the way they lost. So give me Houston plus 10 in the road at Indy. The last game I struggled to find one that I really liked, but I settled on this. Carolina minus 1.5 at home versus Minnesota. Look, minus 1.5 is basically a pick 'em. Carolina lost at home last week to Philadelphia. They lost the previous week in Dallas. They need to win. Minnesota is a mess. I mean, they barely got past the Lions the other day. So Carolina, look, it basically is now a pick 'em at home at minus 1.5. Beat Minnesota. If you're going to be real with Sam Darnold and
they're not having a bad season.
Not having a bad season, but this is a game you got to win.
Yeah.
So give me Carolina minus 1.5 at home versus Minnesota. So the Mind Your Pucking Business Week 6 picks are Jaguars plus 3 at neutral site against the Dolphins. The Lions plus 3.5 at home versus Cincinnati. The Chargers on the road plus 3.5 in Baltimore. Houston on the road plus 10 at Indianapolis. And the last one, Carolina minus 1.5 at home versus Minnesota.
Nice.
Okay
I think we're going to win again.
Well, yeah. So let's do.
Are we doing our locals?
We're going to do the locals. And I have to look because, well, the Jets are on a bye, actually. I have to. So
how many games are we playing in London? You said another team's playing in London. In
the Jets in Atlanta were there.
Yeah. So how many times are we going over there?
I think the NFL does a whole series now.
Wow.
And I was told by B-Rock, the producer, that Nick Suzuki has signed an extension in Montreal.
Wow.
8 years. Was it 8 years?
8 years.
Yeah. 8 years, $63 million. So that's a comparable contract. I'm sure this is why you're bringing it up to Mika. So it proves that the Mika contract is not as bad as people think. All right. The Giants this weekend are home. I feel bad for the Giants. I do.
Yeah.
I watched the game the other day. First you have Saquon getting hurt and Daniel Jones getting hurt, and then you're watching the game and it's just not even watchable.
Yep.
So the Giants are home this week versus the Rams, and they are getting 10.5 points. What do you like?
I mean, are our players playing? Like, is Danny Jones going to be out because of concussion? Is Saquon out?
Well,
I don't know.
that's the hindrance. That's what makes that game a little bit.
I mean,
hard.
what's his name? The backup didn't look too bad. He was making a couple nice throws.
Glennon.
Yeah, he didn't look too bad. 10 points is a lot, but it is the Rams, dude. They're racking up points. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out. Daniel Jones is in concussion protocol. It doesn't look like they know yet on what's going to be the deal. So, that spread at 10.5 is not fair because if those two people play, the spread will come down. If they're not playing, that spread will go up. So it's kind of right now in the middle because no one knows what's
So maybe
happen.
now's the time to pick them. Get that 10 extra points.
You know what? I would go with the Rams at minus 10.5. What would you do?
10 points? I don't know. The Giants defense doesn't look too bad.
Remember, the Rams, though, are good. They've got Stafford. They've got Cooper Kupp. They got Darrell Henderson has been a decent running back for them so far.
Yeah, but the Cowboys aren't bad either. And the defense held up pretty well.
Well, they did let up 34. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
10 points is a lot of points.
So what are you taking? I'm taking the Rams. What are you taking?
I'll probably. Man. I'm going to take the Giants.
I'll take the Giants. All right. So, you know what? Well, at least we can't get the Jets wrong this weekend because the Jets are on a bye.
True.
The Jets, by the way, we should say this. We talked last week because Zach Wilson was coming off his first win versus Tennessee where he did look good.
Mm-hmm.
He took almost as many steps forward as he took last week. He took them back this week because particularly the first half was awful. Thankfully for me, I didn't see any of it because we were at my kids at a soccer tournament all weekend. But when I looked back at it and the stats and read some of the stuff, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
And Atlanta, who they played, defense is not good either.
I don't know. They got to protect him, man. Or at least use him in the ways that he can thrive. So if he can roll out and make nice passes, have him roll out. Have plays that are like designed for him to his strength.
Right now, I would be, again, 5 weeks in, you don't want to use 5 weeks as an ample sample size. However, it's the only sample size you have, so you'll make some conclusion off of it.
Should have kept Sam.
Not loving it. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. Well, they're on a bye, and then I believe next week, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to look right here, but I'm pretty sure they go up to Foxborough, which is a loss for sure. The Jets, yes, they go to Foxborough the next week. up in New England, which is a definite. Well, it's not a definite loss, but it should be a loss. And then they come home and they play the Bengals. Then they go to Indianapolis and the Bill. Yeah, they'll find ways to win some games. The Jets' schedule is not as bad as the Giants. They may finish with 4 or 5 wins, but you really, if you're a Jets fan, would like to see some kind of forward progression with Zach Wilson not going backwards.
Since our Giants and Jets are not doing well this year, let's make a prediction. Who's getting the first round pick next season or this season? Who's getting the next first round pick?
Well, right now I would say it's between the Giants, Jets, and the Jaguars.
Miami's not in that conversation.
Miami won a game. Here's the problem with Miami and the Jets. In the AFC East, they're going to play each other twice. So somebody's got to win. And if one of those teams wins their head-to-head matchups twice, then it's not going to happen. Now, the other thing is Detroit is 0-5. However, Detroit is not that bad. Detroit will win a couple games. So the Jaguars I'm looking at. The Jaguars are 0-5. I mean, look, maybe it's the Jaguars. The Jets are up there. The Lions, yeah. You know what? I hate to say it. I think it's between the Giants and the Jaguars. I really do. Because if Daniel Jones is hurt out long term, or Saquon's out long term, or they're both
out for at least a week.
And we know they're scheduled. We did the whole thing 2 weeks ago with their upcoming schedule, how bad it is.
Yeah.
We won't get into that. But, I mean, how could you not think it's the Giants?
Yeah, they're both out for at least a week. There's no point in pushing them to play for the Rams when they're just going to get beat up.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Bad times here in New York with football. But I feel like it's just a broken record every year. So that's a wrap for today. You can always email us at your questions. And as I told you, I was going to get to them today, and I did that. And we'll do it again. And you can send us your questions at any time at mypbshow@gmail.com. And then with the NHL season gets started here, the New York Rangers scheduled this week. They will be down in Washington tomorrow night for the season opener. The next night they come and play their home opener at MSG on Thursday night versus Dallas Stars. And then they go up to Montreal on Saturday night. So kind of an interesting first 3 games. Like I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
I'm sure you are.
I am.
Do you think we can replace the salmon shirt with a Ranger jersey one day?
I hope so.
For your wedding gifts, are you asking for like Ranger jerseys?
I want to be surprised.
Okay. I'll have to think of something then.
Whatever you think, I'll be happy with.
Okay. Whatever. Well, we'll think. Maybe you'll try to be creative.
If I had a choice, though,
yes,
maybe put my name on it so it lasts forever. I was going to do that with the Jets and Giants. I was going to get 2 jerseys, Jets and Giants, my name on the back, number 10. But I just feel like it's a waste for this season.
Do you think, though, would you rather? All right, so you and your fiance, or then at the moment wife, are opening up your gifts. And you have an option where you could take option A, which is a check for money.
Okay.
Or option B is a Ranger jersey with your name on it, plus a T-shirt that says Gerard Bump Yo. What would you take? Okay.
First off, I'm sure she's going to get plenty of gifts. So I can be selfish and have a jersey once in a while. And it's the thought that counts.
Yeah, I think at some point we're going to have to get you a Ranger jersey just because, like, on camera, I think it would be cool if you were wearing a Ranger jersey one day here. I think it would be like really cool.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy week 6 of the NFL coming up at you this weekend and the start of the NHL season, which starts tonight. Take care, everybody.